today's Locked On Mavs, Isaac and I are going to talk about all kinds of stuff, news, things happening for the Mavericks. Jason Kidd was on the radio.
And Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki is on the cover of a video game.
Oh, let's go. Talk about it all on Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The Monday Maniac, the One More Thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Okay, I need your soundboard help. I need the conspiracy theory.
Ooh.
So here we go.
I got that on hand. I'm ready. I'm ready with that one.
So my mother-in-law is in from Brazil, and the last time my mother-in-law was here in the States was a little over 3 years ago. And she went to her first and only Mavs game. And you know who else was in Dallas? Number 0 for the Portland Trailblazers. And I'm just saying, she's back. And she's back visiting. And the last time she was here, Damian Lillard was in Dallas. And he torched the Mavs, and it was this whole big thing we talked about on the podcast because all she called him was number 0. I had the USA game on tonight. We saw him. She's like, look, number 0. And I'm just saying, is this a coincidence? Is this going if a trade goes down and it says Woj says Damian Lillard and the Dallas Mavericks, y'all know who gets credit? My mother-in-law.
Oh, there you go. You heard it here first. It may happen, it may not. This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Download the app and join us this week. We will be doing a Spotify Green Room just like we did after the presser on Thursday. It'll be a good time. Join us. Get in on the action. All right, on today's show, a lot of stuff to talk about. We got to talk about the 2K cover. We got to talk about Porzingis did an interview in Latvia. There's some stuff there we can get from Porzingis and what he's doing this offseason. Jason Kidd was on the ticket. Lots of different things happening, going around, so we wanted to talk all about it and get into it. So let's get into it.
Can I make a plug real quick on something?
Plug it.
Something that we're both going to be at. So next Saturday, July 31st, if you are in Dallas, please join us in McKinney at the pub. And we're going to have a lot of fun conversations about the Mavericks. Y'all know one of our good friends, Jonathan Charks, is fighting that fight against cancer right now. We've talked about on this pod. There's ways you can help him. I know Kirk has started a GoFundMe. You can go to that link. Caring Bridge. Yep. We've tweeted out links to that. Yep. John's wife, Melissa, she's so great at articulating their feelings whenever they're all the feelings that's happening right now. But anyway, the Mavs, Bobby, Skin, myself, Nick, a bunch of us, we're going to be talking, hosting a Q&A and all this stuff at the pub in McKinney on the 31st from 1 to 4. All the proceeds during that time frame will go to John and his family. John and his family will actually be there. So please come out if you can in Dallas. You're a Mavs fan. You want to talk about free agency. We're going to talk about Nico and Kidd and all this stuff. It will be a fun time. But more importantly, all the money and proceeds will go to John and his family as medical bills is crazy right now. And they should not have to be worrying about that right now. So.
Absolutely. So we're going to be joining together Avengers style to beat this, basically, is what we're doing.
Hey, I don't know what Avenger you are.
I'm probably like Hawkeye or something. With that group, I'm probably like the.
Is Skin Captain America?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I think too.
Yeah, that's probably all right. Tim Cato's Spider-Man.
I don't know what Tim Cato would be.
There you go. All right, tons of stuff to get into. So let's talk.
Oh gosh, how many comments did we get about this?
All right, let's be honest. We failed our audience. We don't do this often, but we have failed our audience because Luka Doncic was named the cover athlete of NBA 2K, a really big deal, and we have not talked about it until now. We did have the presser on Thursday and all that kind of stuff, so there's a lot of stuff happening between then and now. But look at this. It's beautiful.
Oh, hook it up to my veins. Can we? I just want it on my wall.
I got it as my background on my phone. It's looking great.
Oh wow, it actually does look good.
Yeah.
It never fails. You hear more about, the stuff you forget and stuff you don't talk about or stuff you get wrong more than the things that you get right. And the amount of tweets and DMs and YouTube comments, and it's like, how do these guys not even talk about NBA 2? You dropped 4 pods and you didn't even talk about like my freaking gosh.
It's true. No, they're all right though. Like completely. Like we did drop 4 pods between when he was named the cover athlete and now. And I can't, like, all the other podcasts on the Locked On NBA network would be all over this.
Let me pull out my notes app right now.
If one of their athletes was named. But what does this mean for Luka? Because it seems like a big deal. We talked, man, what is it, a year ago, 2 years ago, about why Luka doesn't have a signature shoe yet. What's Luka's audience look like? Is he more popular than Zion? Like all that kind of stuff with all-star voting and things that we talked about. And now it seems like Luka has risen above that whole conversation, right? Just completely with this. It's absolutely insane to see him on this cover already at 22. Like, let's do this whole thing again. Our whole monologue we do every time we talk about Luka at 22 years old to already be the cover athlete of 2K and it not be a Derrick Rose type situation, right? Like is absolutely wild.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had Zion on it last year, and we had that debate conversation. I don't know, at some point last year.
Are you saying it devalued what the 2K cover means that they put Zion on there? There are more options. There are now more athletes on there. But.
Yes, that's very true. But I remember when we had that debate. I forgot how long ago it was like who's more popular right now, Zion or Luka? Yeah. And it was like a year ago, I feel like, and I was so like, Luka is more popular than Zion, all this stuff, despite Zion's Instagram stuff, whatever. And now I don't even think
he had a million more followers on Instagram.
Well, now I don't even think it's a conversation either. I still think it's like, I thought it was Luka then. I think Luka's like furthered that gap now. And I think something you can even look at in particular is like, look at the jersey sales. Like Mark Stein tweeted those out not too long ago. And like Zion wasn't even in the top 10. He might not have been in the top 15, if I'm not mistaken. And Luka was what, 4th or 5th on that list, behind, LeBron and, Steph maybe. Anyway, it just goes to show you that Luka is one of the most popular, players in the league. I think you might have it pulled up right now. Yeah. LeBron, Giannis, KD, Luka, number 4 on that. I mean, look, Zion's not even on that list. So when you're looking at players to put on this, I mean, LeBron's already been on it. Giannis has already been on it. KD's
a legend now. He's on the legend cover with Dirk.
So, mate, who else are you going to give it to? I mean, I guess they could have went with, Booker. Steph's already been on it. I think Harden's been on it.
Kyrie was on it in 2016, right?
Yeah, Lillard was on it last year. So, I mean, I guess they could have went Booker because he was in the finals, but no, go with Luka Doncic.
This is decided way before the finals, though, right?
That's true.
They probably wouldn't even have known that.
And if you ventured out into trash video games, you maybe looked at NBA Live, and Luka was on Live last year. He moves over to the actual good video game this year in 2K. I say good in a relative sense. It's better than Live, but here's my thing. I've bought NBA my entire life. I actually just played it today because I'm in an online league now, because now I'm like trying to get back into 2K. And I literally just told my wife the other day, I was like, I think next year is going to be the first year I don't buy it. Because I haven't been playing as much. Kids come along, like your time is like valuable.
And then they put Luka on one cover and Dirk on the other cover of the same
And I'm just like, take my money. Like, what are we doing? Like, of course, I'm going to buy it. And yes, are you listening to this saying, Isaac, are you about to drop $60 because of a cover? Yes. That is what I'm going to do. So don't judge me. And then I'll play the game, and hopefully there's some like cool Luka mode or something.
I'm waiting to just buy the artwork. Oh, that's all I want is the artwork. I want it big. I want it up there, like right next to Zuko and Iroh. I want it right up there on the wall because I love this artwork. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Do you have a picture of the Dirk cover too? They have the Legends cover with Dirk and KD and Kareem, and it looks great too. I know I got a couple tweets like, hey, which one are you going to buy? I will buy the Luka one probably. Even though this Dirk one looks amazing. I mean, just shout out to the Mavs. I mean, Mavs themed 2K year. Let's go,
yeah.
Dirk. And the coolest thing about it is like Dirk's, in the game doing all these interviews and stuff too. Like I just said, I was playing 2K21 earlier, and Dirk's like in one of the loading screens, like talking to the host. They have like a little TV show in the game if you don't play, and he's just talking about life, talking about the show, and he's doing all this publicity for it. So he's been tweeting and stuff. I'm like, I need more Dirk in my life. You can never have enough Dirk in your life, and yeah, I just love it, and I'm excited to see what the Legend Edition looks like. What it means for Dirk, and I don't know. I love all of it.
They kind of did our guy dirty though. The eyes just seem weird. Like it just seems like he's really had a really like sad day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
on the eyes,
they haven't done the best job at his appearance in the game, but
like the disheveled hair, like he could have given our guy a little bit of a better day to go off of the the stencil or whatever. The source image. Anyway, all right, that's the 2K cover. Let us know what you think. What
there you go, guys.
What does this mean for Luka?
That's waiting for that segment. There you go.
All right, let's do this. Are you going to buy 2K just because of Luka and Dirk? Let's say you weren't going to buy 2K in general. Would you buy this just because Luka's on the cover? Let's answer that question.
Yeah.
Let's answer that question in the chat.
Oh, I thought you were asking me.
Oh, I mean, you already answered the question. Yes. You're going to do it.
Yes.
We already know that. All right, coming up, let's get into some of these interviews that happened with Jason Kidd and Porzingis and a bunch of other stuff that's happened. More news, by the way, too. The assistant coaching, we're getting closer with another assistant coach, so hopefully we'll get this one sorted out. But before we do, let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're delicious. I eat one almost every single day. I just absolutely enjoy them. They're great to tide me over from a meal. They have 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories. That's kind of the range for the different bars. 4 to 5 grams of sugar. 4 to 5, not 45. 4 to 5. That means either 4 grams or 5 grams. That's not a lot for a bar. It's covered in 100% chocolate. 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy and good for you. There's a bunch of different options that you can get. Go and check it out at built.com. And use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. Bunch of flavors available right now, and they have all kinds of promotions and different other kinds of products. So go check it out. Use that promo code LOCKED15. Trust us. They're pretty good. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some of these interviews that we saw over the weekend. Jason Kidd on the ticket, Porzingis over in Latvia. But first, Igor Kokoshkov inching ever closer. How many updates are we going to get? We were talking about this before. This offseason, it just seems like news happens, but it moves very slowly, and we get an update on every single round of the update of the news. Like, how many times has Wes Unseld been announced as the Wizards head coach or Willie Green as the Pelicans head coach? It seems like we've gotten tweets. And
it's
maybe
like three different tweets of the Washington Wizards and Wes Unseld Jr. are nearing an agreement.
Laser focused on
to be the next franchise's head coach. I'm like, I've seen 3 tweets of this in it, and I'm super happy for him. He deserves it, and it's awesome. But I'm like, I get the notifications, and I'm okay.
It's
cool.
just
Igor's kind of in the same. I'm like, yes, I know we're getting close to Igor being announced, but it's still not official. But we've gotten a few tweets.
It's true. It's still not fully official, so we won't dive into it yet. But that is inching closer. But I think that's an excellent addition. He's been.
I got a question for you.
I didn't realize he'd been an NBA assistant for so long, like since 2000. Right? Like that's
a long time.
He's
Kings were the latest, I think.
Yeah.
Does Luka tweet a congratulatory tweet or Instagram post about Igor first or Jason Kidd first?
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Will fans try to read too much into it? If he's
fans or co-host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, which ones will lead it?
If he like blows up his Instagram feed, congratulating Igor, and there still hasn't been anything about. Okay. Anyway.
They will look like this. They will be all angry, like Champ.
I like that. Sure.
Shout out to us for going to the Mavs sale this weekend and just cleaning them out, basically.
Yeah. They took my money, man.
Isaac, okay, I'm going to pull back the curtain again a little bit. Not as emotional as the last time I pulled back the curtain for sure.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, thank you to everybody that has messaged me, DM me, and send great messages. I really appreciate it. But
any negative stuff? Do I need to fight anyone?
I don't think so. No, it's all been pretty positive. One guy was like, skip to 6:30 so that you can actually hear the Mav stuff. And I was like, I guess I get it.
Hey, sir, come to the pub July 31st.
Oh, we're not fighting people at Sharks' thing. But Isaac and I were walking away from the presser on Thursday, and he goes, "We should go to the pro shop." I'm like, "Okay, let's go to the hangar." I'm like, "Okay, we'll walk over to the hangar." And then you like double take and you go, "No, I'll just spend money." You just look so sad.
Yeah.
And guess 2 minutes later you go, "No, okay, we're going to the hangar." And we go to the hangar, and guess who bought stuff?
I bought a hoodie.
And then at the sale over the weekend,
and then the dude tells me at the counter, there's going to be a sale on the week. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you didn't. And then I kind of forgot about it. Then Nick texted me and said, hey, I just went to the sale. Look at all the stuff I got. And I'm like, crap, load the family up. Let's go.
You had to one up me.
And then I went, a second time. And
this must be a Monday after a big news weekend because we're completely off the rails already.
Let's go
into this. Okay,
all right, let's get into Jason.
Yeah, let's
Kidd
get into
interview.
some. I guess the 2K cover was real news, but Jason Kidd was on the ticket with the Musers over the weekend, and he had a couple of comments that I found pretty interesting. The first one, he was asked if he was a player coach. Like, are you a player's coach? That's kind of a buzz phrase that a lot of people have said recently about player coach. Yeah, I guess that's different than a player's coach, and a player coach are different things. But he was asked if are you a player's coach? Like, are you a coach that, can relate with players? And Carlisle was not a player's coach by all means. Like, it seemed like he tried to take some steps to be that. He like went and visited Dennis, went and visited Luka and KP and all that stuff over the summers and tried to be a player's coach, but he's just not that, right? And so now we're trying to take the different direction for the Mavericks, and he asked that, and he said, yes, he does believe he's a player's coach and that he'll, quote, give them the answers to the test. I thought that was an interesting way to put it as a coach. Like, there's just a difference for if you've been there before and you know the answers to some things. And I think his experience from, failing in Milwaukee and then I guess sort of in Brooklyn as well, I think he seems like he's learned, and the big thing that he keeps mentioning over and over again, he does in this interview we'll talk about later, is that he doesn't know everything. And so I think that combined with his actual experience as a player in so many different facets of a career, right? He's been a role player. He's been a star player. He's been a point guard. He's played off the ball. Like, he's played in so many different areas. So on paper, all those things together should equal some pretty good, at least advice and knowledge for some of these players, especially Luka. I think Brunson. I think Jason Kidd could be really, really good for Brunson specifically.
And Lonzo.
On paper, and hopefully Lonzo. Yeah.
Well, he said something else in that same quote when it came to his experience and giving the answers to the test. And I thought this is what separates Kidd from some of these other like candidates out there, saying, I have played every seat on the bench. I've been the starter. I've been the franchise player. I've been the role player. I've even been the guy at the end of his career. Like, I've been the guy at the end of the bench that I wasn't good enough. I was the old guy, but I was still staying positive and like how to make an impact on the team. Like, he's literally played every role. So besides, I guess the young kid who like is just trying to get minutes. I guess he hasn't played that role because he came in and he was, already good.
Rookie of the year and
but he's played so many of those like spots and positions that he does have the experience that he can go to them and saying, hey, like, I've been there, done that. Let me tell you, let's talk about it. So I thought that part was intriguing.
Yeah. So that is a positive. And we are going to try to focus on some positives because he's the coach of the Mavericks now, right? Like, we're going to try to look at the bright side and see, okay, what can he actually bring to this team? What can he bring that's, different than what he did before and, the ways that he coached in other places. So I think that being a player's coach, I think will actually help the Mavericks.
Yeah.
He's been asked a couple of these questions at the presser and then now in this interview about basketball today. And I find his answers really refreshing because you just don't want some of these questions. Like, what do you think about, this was the question that was asked. What changed the most since you were a player? And you hear so many guys, most of these guys in the media that say, these guys, not necessarily the TNT guys, but on ESPN and NBA TV and all these guys that come out and say, well, they're soft or they're this, or it's a negative approach that they take to it. Now, Kidd's about to coach these guys. He's not going to say anything negative, but he said players are better now. I thought that was such like a refreshing comment from a former player to come out and say that players are better now. Basketball IQ is high, skill is high. Those are two things that he said, and I really like that as an answer, because it's looking at today's NBA in a positive light and not like, well, they could never play in my era. That whole shtick that a lot of former players like to do right now.
Yeah, for sure. And he even said, he's like, we've fallen in love with the 3-pointer. And he mentions in that of saying, some teams are out there trying to shoot for 53s a game, and how the game has changed. I mean, this stuff we all have seen and noticed that, but he makes it a point too to emphasize, which he did in my answer when I asked him about what he's learned from LA. He brought up defense, talk about Vogel and the Lakers being, one of the top teams in the league defensively. And he said it again there. He's like, hey, we've fallen in love with the 3-pointer. Like, as far as the league, he was like, but the team winning championships, he said, you got to be able to play defense. And I mean, stop if you've heard a Mavericks coach
about to go into a training camp talking about defense.
We're gonna work on defense.
Here we go.
All right, it's like
deja vu all over again.
Deja vu. But you know what? You can never talk about it enough, I guess.
Well, they still haven't played it, so
I mean, you at least want him to talk about it. It would be different if he's like, you know what? We're just going to lean into offense because we suck at defense. You don't want to hear that.
It's hopeless on that end. There's no shot for us. Coming up, there's so much more I want to get into. He said something else in that topic about falling in love with the 3 that I thought was really interesting too, that speaks to his basketball IQ that I think will, again, all of this is on paper, help the Dallas Mavericks. So let's get into that coming up. But before we do, I want to tell you quickly about betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to put some money down on sports. Right now, there's so much going on. There's NBA stuff. The Bucks took a 3-2 lead. The Suns have been series favorites since game 1 in this. And now the Bucks are now minus 385 favorite. That's a huge swing. I think it went from it was like minus 200 something for the Suns, and now it's all the way over to a minus 385 for the Bucks. That's a huge swing. If you think the Suns can take it back, this is your time now to put some money. If you think the Suns can win 2 more games and 2 straight games in this series, then go run to betonline.com. Use the promo code LOCKDOWN. Get a 50% welcome bonus, your first deposit. They have Olympic stuff, NCAA. They have some draft stuff on there. Football, golf, horse racing, everything you can think of. Again, promo code LOCKDOWN. Get a 50% welcome bonus, your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's keep talking about the interview with Jason Kidd from The Ticket, the Musers. He was on there over the weekend, or maybe on Friday. And the thing that he said in that answer that you talked about, when we're looking at how teams play today, and he said, we fall in love with the 3, but teams that win championships play on the other end. The other thing that he said in that statement was the good teams are shooting 3s and the mid-range. He focused on both of those. He talked about how effective teams are really, really good mid-range shooting teams, which is true. We're seeing the Suns team right now really good at these mid-range shots. Booker, Chris Paul, you have these elite guys at this mid-range shot, because you have to be able to be a 3-level scorer in the NBA to succeed at the highest level.
Especially playoff time.
Especially in the playoffs. Chris Middleton is showing it on the other end for the Bucks. He is absolutely killing it in the mid-range at times during this series, because he wasn't hitting his 3s for the longest time, but he was still scoring. He was scoring in the mid-range. That's how he's doing it. Giannis has added some mid-range stuff. I tweeted out this video of Giannis, I think it was in game 5, of him taking this Dirk step back, one-legged fade. And everyone's trying to hit that mid-range shot because it's super important. It's so hard to guard, because if you can get the right distance, if you can get the right space, it's a much easier shot to get to if you can get that space, and the best players can get that space. And so you start playing your averages. You're like, okay, well, this shot, is a 60% shot 2-point range, or I can try a 33% shot at 3-point, right? And you're like, let me just try to get that. So I thought that was important too, that it's not just we're not all going to lean into 3s and lean into that. We're going to embrace some of this other stuff too. Especially these mid-range shots, because that's something Luka added last year that we thought really opened up his game.
Yeah, that your last point was exactly what I was going to say. It's like that was the next level that we saw from Luka last year, is adding that mid-range. Or I shouldn't say added. He's had it, but he's added it to his arsenal as far as implementing it into the game. But
it's almost for Porzingis though, he has to almost add the inside game for like now, right? He has like he can hit the three. He does need to get better and more consistent at hitting the three. The mid-range game is kind of there, and he can do it every once in a while depending on who's guarding him. We saw that at least a little bit more consistent, but it's the inside stuff that he just can't do at all. The finishing at the rim kind of stuff that he really struggled with this past year. It's almost like that's the 3-level area that he needs to work on.
Yeah,
which I found interesting. But any other quotes from this Jason Kidd interview?
Yeah, I didn't know. Do you just want to stay on the kid interview and we hit Nico a different day, or what are you thinking?
No, let's go for it.
Okay.
Is there anything else stuck out?
Well, just the collaboration on the coaching staff that he's said, hey, as far as who's going to be assistant coaches, he said it's a collaboration between Mark, him, and everyone. I thought that was just intriguing. I mean, I don't know how coaching staffs are like fully formed. I mean, you could tell me that Kid picks every single one of them and it's 100%, or Mark and everybody. So I was like, okay, learn something there. That I guess it's everyone's input on who Kid gets as assistants and not just Jason Kidd.
Well, there's definitely levels of coaches, right? There's coaches where you bring him in, like Stan Van Gundy in Detroit, where you bring him in. He is he can say anything about, he was the president of basketball operations and the coach. Like that is the highest level of input that you can. Doc Rivers was this in the clip with the Clippers for a while. That guy literally makes roster decisions, coaching decisions. Like he is given all the responsibility. And then there's certain coaches that are given less than that, right? And they're like lower. So to me, It was like, we're not giving Jason Kidd complete autonomy.
Which is good. I mean,
he is probably good, right?
He hasn't proven that yet. I mean,
right.
We've talked about his past coaching stops and everything. So in a way, it's good that they're saying, hey, we're not going to let you just pick everything. Like, let's come in and like, we'll help you pick of who we think should be around you.
And it's probably positive because Nico has, different connections that Jason Kidd probably doesn't. And so that's probably great too. It seems like they're really embracing this collaboration on both like the coaching staff, player movement, like all kinds of stuff. They're embracing this. And there's a little part of me that doesn't think that it's positive, but you want to think that it's positive because, more brains together, we can get a better answer, all that kind of stuff. Collaboration, that should be good. Working together. There's not just Rick doing this thing, Donnie doing his thing, and Mark Cuban like coming in and saying no swiftly at the end of this. You want him to be like involved in the whole process so you see how it got there instead of just saying no at the end because he doesn't understand the whole scope of like a Giannis pick or something like that, right? So there's pros and cons, I guess. I don't really know.
Well, but in I think we've seen both them speaking out of both sides of their mouth too. I think we've heard a lot of the collaboration, but we've also heard Mark and everyone say, "Oh, this is Nico's show," right? Nico's the president of basketball ops. Nico's the general manager.
I think that was an overcorrection from the presser where he said, well, I make the final decisions, and kind of made a joke about it. And people took it and ran with it like, oh, Cuban's making all the decisions still, and Nico doesn't have any power. And so
he's still always going to make the decisions, but I still took from the presser that like we want to empower him. Like we want to, even that whole quote that he had about, when you give somebody responsibility, you got to give them authority too. So I think it's a little twofold in that, like they're going to let him run the show and do his thing, but in the same sense, hey, I'm going to sign off on everything. But speaking of Nico, unless you had something.
The one thing Jason Kidd said in this interview, Nico also kind of mentioned it too. When he was asked about Bob Vulgaris, he said, quote, I wasn't there to speak on how they used Bob. Now, the hopeful optimist side of me says, okay, he's talking about him in the past tense. That means that Bob's not there anymore and they've moved on from it. But I'm still just holding on. There's still something about it that just seems like he might still be working for the Mavericks or with the Mavericks in some way. But they both talked about him in the past tense.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is what it is. Right?
Until we get an update, I'm not.
This may be the big mystery of the Dallas Mavericks forever.
I'm not gonna waste any breath on it until we get it.
I just thought it was interesting. It was all in the past tense, right? Like nobody is confirmed or denied he's still with the team or he's not with the team, which is just.
I have no more comments on. Okay, Nico Harrison. He was asked on The Fan. He did this great interview, and they asked him about evaluating talent, and he had this question of a little bit of him admitting something about the difference between Nike and now, and like what he'll have to get better at. He said, I've been doing it for 19 years. I think the difference is that now, when I was doing it at Nike, on the Nike side, we were just looking for people that ultimately can sell products. And now you got to put the pieces together. He said, I haven't actually done that, but I do it all the time. I look at teams and say, oh, they need this, they need that. I'm a basketball guy. I've played basketball my whole life, played overseas. Really, putting the pieces together isn't going to be a problem. But it's like him admitting, like we think it's going to be a seamless thing, and he has all these relationships and stuff. But I thought that was really telling too, because he has like,
this is a different game.
Yeah, it's a different game. Like he has like been very confident of like who he is, and it's like, hey, I'm bringing all this to the table. These 19 years from relationships, but actually telling the difference that, yeah, I put the team together to sell products. Now putting the pieces together for a basketball product, it's a different ball game in that. So I just thought that was. I'm glad that he shared the honesty in that and didn't just like gloss over it, like, oh yeah, I've basically been doing all this, like. But I like that honesty from it.
I think it's back to that humility part that we, attributed to Jason Kidd. I think both of these guys come in, with a little bit of humility, like, okay, I have, Jason Kidd, it was with his personal past, which there's so many things you can get into with that, but I didn't know everything as a coach. And I, admit that I was, overstepped in certain parts of my career. And then Nico coming in and saying, I haven't done this job before. And so I'm going to come in and, do the work and all that kind of stuff. I think that's positive, right? Instead of all the, coming in and saying, we know what we're doing and we're going to change this around and this team's going to win a title and blah, 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 blah. I think they're taking it from that. But if I'm a Mavs fan, I'm a little worried that he's never done it before. And he basically gave the answer. Yeah, I've played with the trade machine before.
But hey, it's
it's a different level than that, like, but still,
it's a website called
TradeNBA.com.
Okay, real quick. Can we keep going about just his KP comments?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dad. So he says, he's talking about KP, and he says, I'm actually really excited about Kristaps. I think he's finally healthy. What Jason Kidd is going to bring in terms of communication and really wrapping his arms around people, I honestly think he's going to really flourish in the system that Jason's going to bring. He goes on about his fit with Luka. The skill set that he brings matches with Luka, but I also think the thing about Kristaps is, stop me if you've heard this before, people put a lot on him in terms of the reason why their season ended, but he was doing what he was told to do. He's actually a team player, and I think we're just going to put him in a position to succeed.
They're harping on this so much.
Another hey, he was just doing what he was told to do, what Rick told him to do, basically.
Kid said that in the interview on the ticket, too.
Yeah, and the whole, the talking point again of which is, and I don't even want to say a talking point because it's the truth as far as
it is true.
That's true about his role. It's also true that this is his first healthy offseason and all that. But they're continuing to really hype KP up in this, like, hey, he's gonna fit in Jason's system, everything. And you, once again, you do that either way, even if you think he's gonna be part of the future or not. They're saying all the right things.
You empower him. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You empower him, but it's also good to remember why he got to the point where Carlisle was like, stand in the corner. Right? I mean, there was a long road to get to that point that we followed. And I mean, we cover the team every single day. We watch every game. We follow everything. We follow all the quotes and everything. So there is a reason why he got to that point. But yeah,
it's also good to remember Cuban's quote from 3 or 4 weeks ago,
which I found very interesting, which is probably going to be a whole podcast. But yeah, he said, there's no question about it. I think people were unfairly giving KP a hard time. KP is who he is. We didn't think our need for a secondary scorer would be as great as it was, honestly. We thought we had more need, more defense and to balance things out.
This was Mark Cuban speaking at a school.
Yeah. The St. Mark's School of Texas alumni.
Yes. Back in June. So this is before Nico and stuff went down, Nico and Jason Kidd. And when that quote came out, it's kind of a underlying, like, kind of a quiet quote because he's obviously speaking at school. Trickled out. Some people talked about it, but Mark basically admitting that, like, hey, like, we're still in need of a secondary guy.
We thought we had the guy with KP. KP is who he is. That's what he says in this.
Yeah. So, but while still saying, he said, I think people are unfairly giving KP a hard time. KP is who he is and all that stuff. But it's another thing there of like, hey, we can remember that comment, but also remember them hyping him up and everything right now too. So
yeah. There's a balance with KP. You still average 20 points a game during the regular season.
Yeah.
He's not a trash NBA player, right? We can't go that far down the pendulum. I don't think we ever have, but
no.
You can't go that far. He still is a functional, good NBA player. He just ran into a bad matchup and couldn't attack the matchup in a way that the Mavericks needed him to, and that really held him back. And so it's like,
and this should be the best he's looked in years. So
this year, yeah.
If he comes out and looks bad at the beginning of this season, that's when I think then I'm assuming most everyone has red flags up right now, but
first month and a half, right? We're not talking first 5 games.
Yes. Yeah. For a decent long stretch there everything, he should be good now. So
should be. There you go. So many other things.
Did other teams hear that? He should be great. Right.
This should be the best he's ever been.
All-star.
There's so many other things we could get to and talk about this, but we'll stop there. We'll be back tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.